Today, what I'm going to show you is how to make ChatGPT AI content sound human and a humanizing AI SEO strategy. And what you learn is quick, actionable, free ways to ethically edit your content and humanize it and make it just sound more human. Because better AI content is going to help better rankings and that's going to convert better, which basically makes you more money, right? So let's get straight into it. Now, you might say, why are we doing this? First of all, Google doesn't want unedited AI content ranking, right? So if you look on Google's guidance about AI generated content, they're not actually against it. They said it can actually create useful content. But the main thing is that you do edit it. They just don't want AI spam rank. And why is that? It's usually because AI content is usually sloppy in terms of fact checking, in terms of its actual reliability. So by improving your AI content using the strategies I'm about to show you, you're basically not trying to deceive Google or your readers, and you're actually just focusing on the reader, which makes your content as useful and accurate as possible. This actually makes your content better, differentiates you from everyone else who's just copying and pasting from ChatGPT. It gives you a competitive advantage because your competitors actually don't know how to do this. And let's be honest, it's easier and easier for people to spot ChatGPT content. For example, we've all seen this on Twitter or Facebook, the generic stuff. So basically, I'm going to show you how to avoid that. So one of the first strategies that we can actually use is fact checking your content, right? So here's an example of where ChatGPT has actually generated false information. So this is an article by Tidio.com, and they've said, what is the world record for crossing the English Channel entirely on foot? And then you can see the response right here. And obviously this is a made up world record. Now there's actually various different stats on how often ChatGPT hallucinates. So you can see some people have quoted 15 to 20%, some people have said up to 3% of the time. Either way, if you're getting your facts wrong in your content, it's misleading for the reader, but also it's an issue for SEO. Now you can actually check this manually yourself, so you can check all the stats within your content, or an additional way to do this is you just go into Originality, for example, and they actually introduced a fact checker recently, as you can see. So what we can actually do is take this list of made up and also real facts. We won't label them. We'll make it 150 words right here. And then we'll plug that into Originality to use a fact checker. It's got that right here. There we go. We'll scan it now. And you can see it's checking the statements. And you can see right here, it's checked the facts. It's highlighted which ones are false and which ones are true. So you can see, for example, 50% potentially true, 50% potentially false. Now, I still think the best way to check the facts is to do it yourself or get someone in your team to do it. But that's an easy way to humanize your content and remove all the hallucinations within your content. And then if you select one of the facts, for example, like this one right here, it has the statement, the result, and then the explanation. And then it's got this fact right here. So a group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. And it actually gives you the claim supported by multiple sources. So you can see it's sourced Berzilla right there, and it's sourced theatlantic.com as well. If we go onto Google, we've checked it right here and said a group of flamingos is called, and then it's finished it off right there. If we hit generate on search generative experience, it's also confirmed the stat as well. And then for everything that we fact checked down here, you can see the details right here. Now you can also do this inside Perplexity. So if you say, give me some facts about flamingos, this is a free tool, and you can see for every single fact that it gives us, it's actually referenced the source right here on the list, right? So you've got 3 sources for this fact, 2 sources for that one. If you're creating content, again, you probably want to fact check it yourself. That's the best way. But you can see how with a combination of Originality and Perplexity, you can actually fact check the content in a very quick way. And you can get sources for your content that you can quickly check. Now I'm going to show you another way to edit the content to humanize it more, right? So for example, we take this ChatGPT content, we plug it into Originality right here. You can see that it is 0% original and 100% AI, right? And this is constantly changing. So the techniques to bypass AI detection like 6 months ago might not be working today. And this algorithm is constantly improving, right? Now, what you want to note here is that this is just a percentage chance that the content is actually AI, right? So for example, a score of 90% original and 10% AI should be thought of as we are 90% confident that this content was created by a human, not that this is like 90% human and then 10% AI. It's just a confidence score. So for example, if this content comes out at 100% AI detectable, then you can imagine that Google is either working on or already has something baked into that algorithm to figure this out too. And if it's like 100% certain, then you can imagine that eventually websites will get caught for that, right? How can you edit this content right here to make it less AI detectable? Let's have a go. So we'll plug this into a new document right here. A theory that I've heard is that if you make the content shorter, then it's less AI detectable. Because if you look at, for example, ChatGPT, you can imagine if the content is just one big block and all the sentences are really long, etc., then that's going to look more like AI generated fluff. So let's take this content and we'll say turn this into short sentences, no longer than 5 words, nothing descriptive. I'm not recommending that approach for all the content you create, but I'm just using this as an example. So we'll copy that content and we'll plug it into originality like so, hit scan again. You can see that that reduces the AI detectability of the content by 7%, but still, this AI detector is 93% confident that the content is AI generated. So it's not really good enough to use in this example. So let's try something else. What we're going to do right now is say rewrite this so that it's not detected by AI detectors. We're going to grab that content, plug it into the AI detector like so, hit scan again. And actually, that method doesn't work either. So if we open this up right here, you can see it comes out at 100% AI, just as bad as it was before. Now, another approach that we can actually use is we'll go onto undetectableai.com, hit Humanize over here, paste in the text, hit Humanize, copy that, and scan it again. And you can see that it comes out at 100% original, right? So asking ChatGPT to rewrite the content so it's not detectable doesn't really work. Asking ChatGPT to cut down the length of the content and the sentences, etc., doesn't work either. But using a tool like this, we can actually edit the content and make it 100% original. And that was at undetectable.ai. However, once you've actually created content like this and you've run it through a tool like Humanizer, for example, the problem is that it actually doesn't read very well, right? So it feels very unnatural in the actual writing. So it might be written to beat AI detectors, but it's not actually written for the user. So if you read the sentence, for example, search engines consider, comma, doesn't make sense to add a comma there, over 200 factors when assessing websites, including the speed at which turtles move, right? Just doesn't feel natural when you read through the content. So it might be undetectable, but the problem is when people land on the page, it's going to feel very unnatural, and it's probably not going to convert if we wanted to sell something via this content. So what we can actually use is this manual quality control checklist, as you can see right here. And step by step, it teaches you how to edit the content in terms of removing the fluff, formatting it nicely, adding expertise, experience, and trust, fact checking it again, adding EAT signals, pretty much everything you can imagine when it comes to manually quality controlling and editing the content. And pretty much as I keep playing around with this, I add more steps to it just to make it the best it can be. Now, if you want to see a video tutorial on exactly how that works, check out this video right here. It should be pretty useful for you. But step by step, you can see how you can actually take a piece of raw ChatGPT AI content, just make it sound human by fact checking the content, running it through a humanizer tool, and also quality controlling it with a manual quality control checklist. And it should only take about 15 to 20 minutes per article to actually use this sort of checklist. You can easily hire a team or a VA to do that for you. Now, I've shown this in previous videos as well. You can also use prompts to improve the human feel of your content as well, right? And you can use all of the steps I'm talking about today collectively to humanize your content as much as possible, right? So for example, if we ask ChatGPT, and I'll do it inside Poe, just to show you an example of what this looks like on ChatGPT without any sort of instructions. So if we say, write an article about SEO, you can see literally from the first sentence, as soon as it says in the ever-evolving digital landscape, this is just generic trash. That's not what we want. Whereas if we take a prompt like this one, and I'll link to it inside the SEO, and say keyword equals what is SEO, create a guide that blends best practices, blah, blah, blah. It's quite a long prompt, but it talks about adding keywords, adding images, encouraging reader interaction, and removing all the fluff, for example, stuff like digital landscape right here. And if you compare this side by side, for example, this paragraph right here, the introduction, versus this one, you can see that with the prompt we've actually used, it just feels a lot more natural, feels a lot more human, it's a bit more interesting to read, it's got a bit more personality, etc. And then again, you can manually edit the content like I've talked about previously. Now, if you look at SEO content from Google's perspective, I've mentioned this in a few videos recently, but essentially what they're going to look at in some of their patents, they talk about, okay, is your content providing anything new in terms of information versus something that was previously generated, right? So if you're just using ChatGPT or any of these sort of AI articles about adding anything new, then you're essentially just spinning around the same generic trash over the internet, right? It doesn't really help. So how can you improve this? How can you avoid that? You can actually use your own data set, right? So for example, if we sign into Kaggle.com, Kaggle actually has its own data sets that you can download. Right? So let's say, for example, you're creating an article about the most watched Netflix original shows. So you can download the data set right here. I've downloaded it right there. Then you can go onto ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you're using. And with that data set, which was free, we can plug this into ChatGPT using one of the Humanize prompts that we've covered previously. So we've said SEO keyword, best Netflix TV show, only source facts from the dataset attached. Write it as a Netflix TV lover, but write the content, blah, blah, blah. Then we're going to hit enter like so. And using code interpreter, so you can see right here, it's analyzing the data attached. It's writing the content from the perspective of someone who binge watches Netflix. Then it's taken the facts from this particular data set. So for example, Stranger Things right here is quoted in the content. Then 13 Reasons Why is also quoted in the content, etc. It's given the ratings from the actual content, which means that number one, the content will be more unique. Number two, it's more contextually relevant, someone reading it. And number three, it's more fact-checked, right? Now, I would still recommend using all of the steps previously, so quality controlling it, fact-checking it, running the content through a humanizer. But that's an interesting way to factually check whether your content is correct or not. Now, what you could also do is insert more relevant, unique images that you've taken into your content to make it more unique and add more information. Right? So, for example, if I was creating an article about like the best SEO speaker, I might include images of me speaking on stage, like this one, for example, and then just insert that within the content to make it more unique and add something new that hasn't been seen before. And then you can see if we actually run those facts through the fact checker right here on originality, you can see that most of the opinions from ChatGPT are wrong, but the actual ratings and data set that we've used originally is actually proven. Additionally, you can just answer new FAQs inside your content as well to add some information gain that your competitors haven't done. Now, another way to humanize ChatGPT content is to actually just generate it line by line. So for example, if you saw this video between me and Kevin Mung, he talks about creating the content not in like one big prompt, but actually just generating the content line by line, which makes it feel a lot more human and natural. You can kind of guide it in the right way. Here's an example. So you could just generate the introduction at first, give it some context. So for example, an article about the best Netflix shows. Don't write in a dull, factual way. Write the intro from the perspective of, say, a Netflix binge watcher. And then you can see the content here that's generated. It still needs chopping up and editing like I've always talked about. But you can see how it just feels a lot more natural and human inside the content. And if you want to get access to the tutorial and the checklist and everything else that we've talked about, including the prompts, feel free to check that out, links in the SOP. Now, if we take this article that we actually generated earlier, we can plug it into originality, and it's still going to come out as AI detectable, which you can see right here, right? So that's why you want to use all of the techniques that I've mentioned today in combination. Now, if we take that same prompt, like so, plug it into Claude, along with the data set we mentioned earlier, we'll upload that. And Claude is another free AI tool that's kind of like ChatGPT if you haven't already come across it. But a lot of people actually prefer Claude because it just feels more natural. And I'll show you an example of what the output looks like in a minute. Now, what we can actually do is compare sentence by sentence, which one feels the most human, right? So if we look at this end sentence, it still doesn't feel 100% human, right? So you see how this sentence is quite long? And it just feels a little bit unnatural, like your fellow Netflix lovers. I don't think anyone would say that in a human conversation. Whereas if you look at the output from Claude, for example, and it's like, what are some of your top Netflix recommendations? Share them in the comments below and let's keep the conversation going. Happy binge watching. That just feels a lot more fluid and natural to me and more conversational than the ChatGPT content. So Claude is quite a powerful way to humanize your content and just make it feel more natural and make it sound more human, right? So thanks so much for watching. That is how to make ChatGPT AI content sound human. We've covered fact checking, running the content for a humanizer, quality control, prompts to feel more human, using your own data set, generating the content line by line, and alternatives such as Claude as well, which tends to feel a lot more natural anyway. Like I say, I would recommend using all of these in combination, not just using one technique at once, because then your content is going to be different from everyone else. It's going to give your content a competitive advantage, and it avoids the AI spam problem that we've talked about previously. So I'm going to add that inside my free SEO course. It's going to be inside the SEO quality control section named Humanization. And the module is called Humanization right there. So you can see the SOP is free to access. Links in the comments and description if you want to get access to that free SEO course. And that comes with 42 free tutorials on how to do keyword research, SEO link building, SEO quality control, topical maps, systems, EEAT, and some free SEO tools, plus how to diversify your traffic too. So feel free to get that. Links in the comments and description. And if you want to book in a free SEO strategy session about how to get more leads, traffic, and sales using SEO, feel free to book that in. Links in the comments and description to book that in. You get a free SEO domination plan, and we'll answer any questions live on the call directly with you. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate it as always. Bye-bye.